Get started with our special meeting with Human Resources. Today's date is February 6, 2025. The time is 9 a.m. In attendance are Commissioners Eberline, Duncan, and Matari. I want to call this meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Public comment? Hearing none. Okay, let's move into the business side here. Item 1, status update of position with community development, and we have Director Callahan here.
Commissioners, just to clarify, we have this listed as an executive session. Does that mean it's just with, is that a mistake on the agenda?
No, only if we would need it to discuss
okay.
personnel.
Thank you. That was the clarity I needed. Okay. Well, in that case, if it's okay with you, I'd like to lead off with something that I think is important.
Yes.
I have touched base with each of my division managers individually and in private, and they have each told me the following. They think it was a smart move to create this position, and they think Craig is the right person to have in it. I agree. I think the mathematics is in front of you. You're fully aware of what that means, and so I don't need to comment on that. The one other thing I can add, and then I'm open to any questions you may have, is among the things that have happened in 3 months is that our building permit reviews are down significantly, meaning they're taking much less time. Like most everything is at least 5 weeks shorter than it used to be. We're still working. We still have room to move forward and make more advancement. But to me, that's a positive indicator in that short of a time. That's really all I have unless you have questions of me.
Commissioner Duncan?
Just a couple questions. I see that the FT request doesn't have that you gave up the landscape architect position.
Oh, yes, you're remembering correctly. We did give that up.
Right. And then also with more efficiency, my expectation would be that fees would start to cover more of your operations.
That seems entirely logical. You may recall we look at fees every year.
Yeah.
So the next time we look at them, I would assume your thought will show up mathematically.
Right. So I guess I just want to make sure that it's clear that the $148,000 impact to FY26 is not accurate. It's much lower. So I just want to point that out.
Commissioner Eberline? Well, as you know, we embarked on this test program to really increase the efficiencies, and largely for 2 main reasons. Because, like you said, we've cut down the time frame of turnaround on projects, which also has some intangibles that the clients, the customers of your department, we've alleviated a lot of frustration because of the circular nature of how some of these projects have gone around. So that in and of itself has value. And the other side to this, of course, is that we hope with the efficiencies that we can move into the world of show me and less tell me, and we can start to look at, do we need all the positions that we have in the sense of, do we want to fill them, that are in the org chart and things like that. And with respect to Commissioner Duncan's comment about the fee structure, I know we were talking about kind of tightening up the connection between your system and our accounting system. Have we made progress with that?
Some, Mr. Chairman. We still need to refine some of the reporting and things like that. And when we migrate to Core BT for that third-party software, which I just got the indicator yesterday, so you'll be receiving that letter. Hopefully the reporting requirements that we have will be more refined to be able to do that with New World.
Okay.
It's still a bridge in the accounting and the way that they do work, but I'm optimistic based on my conversations and the planning that we've done with IMS.
Okay, and that's something, are you working with the finance department at all and auditing just to kind
I
of?
don't have a prototype for the report yet, but since we just got the testing done, I'll work directly with Brandy and Keith on it.
Okay, because that's really been our challenge the past couple of years, is that lack of a tight connection between the two
Right.
systems to be able to account, and for that. So,
Correct.
Brandy Falcon for the record. Our accounting manager did an audit over FY24 revenues between community development system and New World, and it was within like $200. So we were able to get pretty close. So I know that they have some new things going into place, and maybe running reports is still an area that is being worked on, but that was good to see that we could reconcile pretty much the entire prior fiscal year.
Great, thank you. This is listed as an action item, so you want to make a motion?
Yeah.
Unless there's any other questions.
Yeah, I move that we make the Chief Deputy of Operations permanent.
Second.
Commissioner Eberline,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chair Matari.
Aye, motion passes. Next up is item number 2, holiday selection, Juneteenth versus day after Thanksgiving. This is in the BOCC, and we have Leanna Kaiser
Yes, good
here
morning.
to talk about it.
This is our annual approval of the selection between the Juneteenth and the day after Thanksgiving holiday. We've done this annually for several years, so this is the 2025 selection. The only changes were we added a specialty court, which weren't on the list in prior years, and we removed the public defender's office. But every other department stayed the same. So we're just seeking your approval. Once you approve the schedule, we'll forward it to payroll so they have the information they need.
Questions, comments? No?
Ready for motion?
Ready for a motion?
I move that we approve the holiday selection for the June 19th versus day after Thanksgiving holidays for 2025.
I will say yes, but I'd like to have a caveat. So we have a lot of staff in here, and I don't know how many dollars if staff is at this point in time, but we need to make sure that we're representing the taxpayers as best we can.
Agreed.
Commissioner Eberline, that's there, we're here.
Pardon?
On my behalf, so we'll make sure we exit and get back to business.
Good.
Thank you.
Commissioner Eberline,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chair Matari.
Aye, motion carries. Item 3, possible update to holidays policy 312. This is the BOCC item, and we have Leanna Kaiser.
This is actually regarding the same Juneteenth versus the day after Thanksgiving holiday schedule. The prior 3 or 4 years, the schedule has stayed essentially the same, and so we're just seeking guidance for possibly rewording the policy that states every department must tell us which holiday they want. Instead of doing that, we thought we would set this schedule that's approved this year as the schedule, and if there are any changes, they just be brought forward by January 31st, and then we'll update the schedule, have the board approve it, and then let payroll know. So just seeking some guidance in your packet. The proposed verbiage just said, any changes to the selection for the following year shall be communicated to the BOCC office by January 31st. Once the changes have been approved by the BOCC, they'll be forwarded to payroll department for processing. And prior to that, it just stated the selection would be made in January of each year. So Sylvia has informed me that once you agree on the verbiage, we'll have Darren review it for final legal approval, and then it'll be brought forward to the business meeting. Okay, any questions?
Questions,
I'm
comments?
fine with it.
No, I'll take a motion. Or we don't need anything, so.
Just direction.
Yep, it's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on to item number 4. This is a position conversion with the Assessor's Office, and we have Deputy Assessor Dyson Savage.
Good morning, Commissioners. You have to forgive me if I have to clear my throat a few times here as we're making our way through this. So I'm going to kind of divide these into upstairs and downstairs because we have 2 for the DMV and then 3 changes for upstairs because the budgets are different. But we're asking to convert a residential lead appraiser 3 position down to a residential appraiser 2 position so that we can hire somebody who's coming in into that level and then use the savings from that position to increase 2 of our appraiser 2 positions to appraiser 3 positions. We have a couple individuals who have hit their amount of time served and are doing the work of appraiser 3s in their current role. So we'd like to reflect that.
Questions?
I do. Is there a reason why you didn't take that lead 3 and just downgrade it to an appraiser 3? So you wouldn't have to convert 1, 2 steps and then 2, 1 step, and it just seems more efficient to do that. Then you have an open position in 3, and then you could hire somebody.
So we typically don't want to hire into, we don't have the ability to hire into 3s. The highest we usually hire into is a 2. And then we wanted to leave these people in their current position numbers just for steps and to make everything consistent so we don't have to switch their position numbers around.
Okay, I don't know that that works that way.
We could have them go into this new position, that if you convert it down to a 3, they would maintain, because it's considered career progression. And that's something the board then will have to deal with when the policy comes out. But you could do that and use this position number. The position number doesn't affect them. It's the position that they're in.
Happy to do it in whatever is the most efficient way as long as we get it done.
Do you have more questions?
Not on that one. I don't know if you want to handle all 3 of them together or just one by one.
Well, I have a couple questions, but I want to see if Commissioner Eberline has any questions.
Not at this time.
No? Okay. So what I was kind of looking at here, and the way I interpreted what we were seeing, or what was presented here, is that you're reducing the cost of a position, so those salary savings could be applied to somebody else or other staff members. Typically, when we deal with appraisers going from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, there was a certification that was passed. Is that the case for these?
So there's not an additional certification that they can get once they're 2s. So it's much more about the actual duties that they're performing and their time in the positions.
Mm-hmm.
And we can speak more directly to the individuals that are in these positions if you would like. We just have to enter into executive session because we'd be talking about them.
I understand. I'm just talking about the positions as a whole. One of the things that I said last year when we completed our budget was that I really don't want to deal with mid-year changes unless they are completely budget neutral for the next year, because this is how we get into that creep where we say yes to these tiny blades of grass, and then next thing you know, we're behind the 8 ball in the budget because we've approved all of these staffing changes. So I'm okay if you want to figure out how to do this savings to a degree, but it does kind of go outside of the normal way of giving folks bumps for passing a certification, a professional certification. The other component to this, and this is the reason why we created the step system, the annual step system, is because you're going to grow throughout the year anyhow, and we want to reward, people who are continuing to do a good job. So when we add additional stuff on top of these things that people are doing, I'd rather have a discussion about converting positions to, appraiser 3 in the budget, because people are getting their steps as it is already, and not do a mid-year. I mean, I certainly appreciate the salary savings, and it's appropriate given the fact that you had a very senior person. I believe that's who it is that retired, and now you want to open it up for a lower grade for hiring, per se. But that's kind of where I am with this stuff because of the mid-year nature of this request.
Okay.
Well, and we talked in September about being able to better anticipate these kinds of things coming forward, and it's helpful to me to know how many appraiser 2s, 3s that really you should have, whether it's industry standards or anything like that. So again, just taking these 3 positions, lowering one down to a 3 because of the vacancy, and putting another one to a 3. I understand you have 0 appraiser 3s right now. Is that correct? For residential?
I think we have leads.
Yeah.
I believe that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's kind of a gap in the middle part there.
Right.
Of our organization. And yes, I agree. I wanted to present that at budget time to the board. as we're going into the new year, kind of the standard that we'd like to set. If you'd like to see that sooner, I will get you something sooner so that we can do that. The reason I'm bringing this before the board is if you look at the actual salary savings from the projections on these positions, at least the way we have it right now, the salary savings from moving this down does cover, even into FY26, the increase to these other two positions. So we're trying to avoid that creep, in this specific circumstance.
Yes, except what happens when they get their certification for appraiser 3?
There is not an additional certification.
There is no? Okay.
No. So the only time that they get a certification from the state is after they've completed a year, and that is the state certifying them to be able to actually put values on the roll.
Okay.
And be like, that is okay, and they're certified by the state. There's not additional there's additional classes, but there's no like level 2 certification from the state or anything like that.
Yeah. Commissioner Eberline, you got thoughts on this?
My first thought was somebody's moving the cheese around. And so, there's in mid-year and midterm, it's problematic, I think. Anyway, see what you guys have thoughts on.
Well, right now, if you just are looking at these 3 positions only, it makes sense because you will have a $2,500 savings going into fiscal year 26 because you've got 2 conversions that are $5,500 each for next year, so that's $11,000, and then your about $13,500, I think, for the savings for the downgrade on the 1. So it makes sense to do that right now. However, again, I was really hoping that we would have something in October, and it's February, and you're asking us to make these changes. So that is just where I have hesitancy, but since you've got 0 appraiser 3s, waiting till October, I think, would be excessive.
Yeah. Well, if you have the open slots, then what we should be talking about is moving people into those slots.
They don't have open slots because they were converted in order to have a full cadre of positions, they've been converted to a 2. So this is just kind of reconverting those back to 3. Yeah, and I would like to have seen, like, in the past, what did you guys normally run? Did you normally run, 5 1s, 6 2s, however that is? That way it's easier for us to be objective than subjective, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and so in essence, maybe providing an org chart showing us where you were, where you are, and where you want to be.
Okay.
That's a good move, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Because it needs to be static in some ways instead of moving around all the time.
Yeah. Well, part of the moving around all the time is the labor pool. There's just it's hard to retain people.
Labor pool will always move.
Correct, but the assessor's office in particular had excessive movement downwards, and so just trying to get them back up to where they should be, but I don't know where they should be because I don't have that information. But to me, at this point, 2 assessor 3 or 2 appraiser 3s makes sense. Whether they need more than 2, I don't know because I don't have the historical documentation.
I think maybe in the future, the board should be given the org charts in our packets, and that way we can look at this and we can see when the last date of a change was on a position. Because quite frankly, when I look at all these numbers, it's hard to keep track of it. And, it becomes a little bit of a moving game of positions. And I'm not averse to doing what's right for the departments. I think we should do that. However, we get presented with these, again, I've said this before, a decision on a tree, and we have no idea what the forest is going to look like. And I think that really has to kind of change. So if you're open to kind of revisiting this with us, with that information, and we can talk about it, I'm not averse to doing what's right in your department. I'm just averse to just moving things around constantly, and especially mid-year.
It's paramount that everybody's represented properly, including the taxpayers and all the staff And that'll be a challenge to try to figure this out. But I think that's the proper way to do it, sort it out.
So Dyson, is that information you can get to us? Let's see, the next one is the 20th, February 20th.
Yeah,
Would be
I'll
the
put that
next HR meeting.
Yeah.
So would that be sufficient for the board if they got us that org chart and the historical documentation?
Yeah, and I would like to include on the org chart the last change from and to on each of these positions, so we can see that, because that's another thing, is that you have these incremental changes over time. And again, they get siloed, what's presented to the board. And I'd like to have this entire picture in front of us so that we can make sure that what we're moving towards is exactly what we want. And like to your point, Commissioner Eberline, it's looking out for the taxpayer that way.
Commissioners, I did want to make you aware, and Dyson, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we're scheduled to bring on an appraiser 2 on Monday, and your vacancy is for an appraiser 1.
Yeah, and we need to convert, at least in this meeting, if we need to revisit other things due to org charts, you guys want to see additional information, we can come back with these items. But we do need you to allow us to convert one position into a 2. However, that has to happen. So if we have to move this to a 3, we move somebody over, but we do have to have some decision on this lead appraiser position today.
Okay.
So you hired somebody for a 2, but you only have a 1 position?
Yes. Oh, and the lead is a vacancy. The lead is an open position, but we can't hire them into the lead position.
Yes.
So 2 choices. Move the lead that they requested down to a 2, or move it to a 3. One of the people moves to the 3, and then the new hire goes to the 2. It's half dozen of one, 12 of another.
You're talking about
or 6.
the item number
So, yeah,
4.
so item number 4, it has 2 places it can go to live. It can go to the 3s or it can go to the 2s. Either way will accomplish the thing for the hire on Monday.
Well, I would say put it to the 3 and give, you pick which one you want to put in a 3 to make this work. But on the flip side, I kind of have to ask, why are we hiring for positions above what you even have there? I mean, we should be coming to the board before that. Not to, again, create problems, but you put us in a position, you hired somebody for a position that you don't have.
Our position's too high for the person that we hired, is the reality. We have an open position above what we hired for. We just have to.
I understand, but even at this grade, there's still, the position is too high, right? For item 4?
Yeah, that opening has to be converted because it's not feasible to hire a 3 lead position. So.
Where's your head on this with?
I would say, let's get this thing figured out and then have them come back and revisit it.
What do you want to do with the hire that's starting on Monday at an appraiser 2, but the only position open is an appraiser 1?
Well, I guess they can sit out for a while.
What do you mean? Not hire them, or
Which is
hire them?
is the individual already there?
They start Monday.
Start Monday.
Is the individual there already? And are they working now?
No, they start on Monday.
But you extended an offer letter
Yes,
with a salary and everything,
yes.
so we're kind of bound.
And so that's something that's critical. You cannot be doing those kind of things because it's detrimental to everybody else. So since this is where it's gone, I think we're required to approve the position.
Well, we can make the position number 4 a 2.
All right?
We can downgrade that, fill that position, and at least fulfill that side, and then you can come back to us.
Okay.
So that way, I mean, because this position is way higher than a 2, and
Yes,
so it's
yes, it
downgraded, so
is.
there is some salary savings there.
Yeah, about 13 grand.
All right, so,
If I may make a comment, Brandy Falcon for the record. So the auditor's office doesn't know which agenda item goes with which projection, right? We were just asked to give projections by position number. I'm not seeing a projection we were asked to do for a downgrade from a 2 to a 1. Is that what you're talking about doing?
No, we're not doing a 2 to 1 at all.
Are you going from a 1 to a 2? What are you gonna do?
It's 901-006, Brandy.
091-0. So that was converting from that's a downgrade from a grade 10 to a grade 8.
Yes, because they're hiring somebody at the grade 8. Yep, yep. And that brings me to this other, I didn't push it, however, we can't do this with agendas anymore. It has to say position conversion, downgrade lead to a 2. Position conversion, appraiser 2 to appraiser 3. But it's not fair to the public. They don't know what's going on. I mean, we didn't even know, so. Yeah, we need more detail.
yes, and the org charts with each position and the date of when a change was made, the before and the after.
Yeah. Well, if you would
So-
accept a motion.
So if you want to make a motion for position 4 to be converted to an appraiser 2,
Yep,
that will address your impending issue.
yep,
Just state the position number on the record too, when you guys do that. So-
yes. I have it right here. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. I move that we convert position number 091-006 from a lead appraiser to a residential appraiser 2.
Yes.
One more question, because they're hiring outside, you can hire up to a step 5. Do we know what position or step this new hire is coming in for that grade?
The position will be a step 2. This is actually a returning appraiser, and they'll be starting where they left in April.
Okay, so step 2. So,
Yes.
yeah, so it's even a higher
Savings.
savings.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. All right.
Commissioner Eberline,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chair Matari.
Aye. Item 4, motion carries. I think on items
5 and
5,
6, they'll come back.
5 and 6, you will come back. And then that brings us to item 7.
Commissioners, for this one, I think it might be appropriate to enter executive session because we want to speak directly about the employee in question.
Are there any, do you want to consider working with the other 2 items on this agenda before we go into executive session?
We can do so. They might fall into a similar category, but
All
I
right.
do have our D&B manager with us to speak to those as well.
All right, then I guess I'll take a motion.
Oh, okay,
Let's-
so just so we're going to actually do 7, 8, and 9 in executive session is what we're addressing. Is that correct?
That's how I heard it from Dyson.
Yeah, I believe so. There's specific things we'd like to talk about regarding specific employees on those items.
Okay,
Okay.
not a problem. I move we enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74206-1B.
Second.
Commissioner Eberline,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chair Matari.
Aye. Okay. All right, it's 9:48. I'll take a motion.
I move that we exit executive session with staff to proceed as discussed.
I concur.
Commissioner Eberline,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chair Matari.
Aye. Okay. On to item number 10, management training discussion. This is with Human Resources, and we have Director Proud.
Nope, one more.
All right. At the last HR meeting, Bruce, you had asked HR to work on a template for management training for new managers coming in. I think it could be a refresher for existing managers. And so what I've done is provided the board with some items like topics that we can potentially provide and who might be available to provide them. One of the things that HR can do is bring back an annual leadership series where we would host four sessions per year. And it would be on topics such as workers' comp, FMLA, ADA, performance management essentials to teach our managers how they coach their staff and document performance issues, good and bad. Employment law, personnel policy overview, adverse employment actions, and just general labor laws that they need to know as managers, and effective interviewing and recruiting. But that isn't that could change. You know, we can fluctuate with what is necessary, sort of thing. But in the research I've been doing, I think our leaders, managers need to understand the difference between a manager and a leader, doing like a supervision 101. That ICRIMP session is only 10 minutes, so we might have to find something a little more in depth. It might be enough. Effective communication and active listening. And a subpoint of that would be communicating with different generations in the workforce, because we have a lot of different generations here and we have to appreciate what they bring to the table. Managing and motivating employees, so coaching and respectful workplace, decision-making and delegation, performance management, conflict management, change management, and legal considerations. And then I get into, on your sheet, is suggested training formats. This could be in the form of workshops, seminars, in-house provided training, webinars. There's NACO has a leadership series they do. ICRIMP has many webinars, and they do on-site trainings as well, and ICRIMP doesn't charge for that. There's the Safety Fest. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, hosted by NIC, and it's towards the end of this month. They do it annually and have for many years, and they have a wide range of seminars and workshops that people could attend. And then we have SHRM. We just have to make sure, the Society for Human Resource Management, that individuals wouldn't need a membership to tag into those webinars. We could create, one of the things you wanted, Bruce, was some sort of a supervisor's manual that they would sign off on what you need to know, like county policies and those sort of things. And then, you know, within departments, some mentoring, shadowing, and then department-specific required trainings. So that's just a broad overview, and I'm willing to work with the board to see where you'd like to take it from there.
Does anyone have any questions? I do, but
Oh, I just, the more in-house stuff we can do frequently would be, I think, beneficial.
Yeah. We're going to attend some of the Safety Fest trainings that are free, and we're going to tag into, if the presentations are good that would fit this model, we would see, you know, if that presenter would come here and look at costs. Hopefully no cost, but if there's cost, I would come to the board, because HR doesn't have a training and development budget countywide. We have some training dollars for our HR staff, and that's about it. So I know it's important that you want to try and minimize or no cost. And I know departments do put into their budgets training and development, so they might have to cover some of those costs.
Well, the intent of what I was trying to accomplish was to avoid this situation that, as a newer commissioner, walking into and seeing these legacy issues from management that we had to contend with that cost, in some cases, tens of thousands, because we don't have any program in place to ensure that managers are doing what they're supposed to do to mitigate liability in the county. Now, what I'm curious is, how much time do you think would be devoted to working with staff members?
From an HR perspective,
No, from their perspective. How much time are you going to pull someone out of their job? Okay, because, really what I was thinking is putting together a document, having a training class inside, either HR does some of this, or somebody in each of the different elected official silos can do this, but that it explains exactly what's to be done, how it's to be done, and like an employee policy manual, the supervisor will acknowledge they received it, and they will abide by it. And that way, if we have an issue, excuse me, with an employee that's not being managed properly, we have the documentation to say, maybe you shouldn't be a supervisor if you're not going to supervise according to what we want. My fear is that I don't want us to go down the pathway where there's a lot of fluff. And I've been involved with outside organizations, and, it's great. You usually pick up an item or two. It's like we go to these conferences. You get one or two things for 3 days of being gone. This is really just to address that issue.
so more of the employment law type things.
That, and maybe just covering a little bit of, the leadership side, probably, set an example, for others to follow, things like that. But really just something that's relatively condensed. We have nothing right now. And so I wasn't really looking to build a huge program, but maybe just just something that they can fall back on. And follow.
I think it's good to have the elected officials and department heads on board with this, but we definitely want to introduce them to the real concepts out there, because you don't want someone with bad habits teaching bad habits. So I think it's critical whoever they would assign, as high-level manager or director or command staff or whatever, that's teaching them these skills. I think that's important. We can handle the employment law and liability and some of those things, but a lot's going to come from the departments because they have their own philosophies and how they manage.
Well, as you know, it all comes from the top, that culture.
Absolutely.
So, outside of the elected officials, we are the culture. We set the tone and the pace. So, okay. Anyone have any comments or thoughts on this?
Nope.
Are you good with at least what I gave Sylvia some direction on, and just trying to condense it down?
Yeah, the supervisor's manual, which, could include performance management essentials and employment law.
And maybe a little bit of leadership, just as a FYI type stuff.
Okay.
And
And we're still willing to do these. The annual leadership training that HR would host, we would still do those things, and that's voluntary.
Yeah.
And we do get a good outcome from it. And it's really important for those supervisors and managers to understand that whole concept of workers' comp, ADA, FMLA, harassment, military leave. So we'll be scheduling that fairly soon.
I would encourage you to video it so staff members can see it at their leisure if they can't make it.
Sure. Okay.
And oh gosh, there was one other thing I was going to suggest, but I'll let you know after the meeting.
Okay.
So, anything else on this? No? Okay. Public comment. Hearing none, 9:58, meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Dave.